Oh, did you?
Yeah. All right. I think we're live. James, thank you so much for joining me this morning. One of the things that I've realized ever since you started in the program was that every time you share like a photo of your food in the program, or like photos of you in the gym, or anything related to your journey, you had a tremendous amount of support from people like in your Facebook page. And I think I understood earlier on that you were a powerful member of the communities that you were part of, particularly in this last one, San Antonio. And I think that has to do with the fact that, you give a lot to the communities which you are part of. And that includes like also within the program, within the Hotel Fit community, like you are always out there looking to support the others. And I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, people are excited to hear about your story, the people that know you, and yes, and I'm excited to also be able to be here with you and share this with others.
It's all my pleasure, man. Thank you so much. I love sharing with all my social media community and friends, and especially the Hotel Fit community. It's I'm just very grateful to have y'all also and have the support. It's pretty incredible stuff. And I think with that amount of support, it really influences you to try to achieve your goals. So it's definitely goes both ways, man. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Before we dive in and start sharing your accolades and your journey in these past few months, for those who don't know you yet, you want to go ahead and give a quick intro on who's James.
Man, who's James? I'm still trying to figure that out, man. It's been 51 years. It keeps changing a little bit here and there, but man, I'm a culinarian at heart. Born and raised in the business. Can't see myself doing anything else. Avid skateboard fan. Did that for 30 plus years. Raised in that kind of environment. I've always been an adventure seeker. Always looking to see what's around that other corner, over that next peak. I feel like, you get one chance at life. You better start living it, man. Because if you ain't living, you're dying. So that's kind of how I look at it. That's my philosophy on life. And another thing, like my mom always said, speaking of communities, my mom always said, you should always leave a place better, or if not better, or at least the same as you found it. So I always try to keep that in mind, and I really try to, leave a place better than I found it. And hopefully I've been successful at that. I think, through relationships, you really learn how you can help support a community and help support your colleagues and your friends and your family. And it's not always easy, but trying is you always get an A for effort.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think like in this online realm, things are a little bit different, and I think it's very interesting how, like, when we start, I don't know you guys very well, but then like throughout the time I get to know like the personality a little bit better, and that kind of journey of discovery is very interesting. And I came to realize that even like the other clients that you brought in, and people that knew you, or even people that were not clients, that I had like random phone calls, and they like knew who you were, and they would say like great things about you, and I was like, this guy is a legend. And then obviously like when I got to know you in person, that was very clear to me. Like you have this very kind personality, and you're like a really likable guy. So like I understood the reason why all this popularity, especially like you've been in a lot of places in the US.
Dude, that's a big part of it, man. It's I've traveled my entire adulthood pretty much. I feel like I'm still on the road right now. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, for those that don't know, I'm here in Korea at the moment. Just got here 2 weeks ago from San Antonio. Me and the family just moved here. So the adventure continues, still on the road. And with that whole ideology and philosophy of just traveling, exploring, always looking at new things and old things together, you really meet a lot of people along the road. You meet a lot of people. You go to a lot of places, and a lot of the times you somewhat establish relationships, whether they be brief or long term. And I think years and years ago, I realized that there's a couple of very valuable resources in our lives, and much more beyond financial or monetary or anything like that. And it was time and people. Your human resources and your time resources. So I always look at meetings with people as an opportunity to get to know somebody that might have some new ideas or philosophies or answers to questions that have been gnawing it at the back of my mind for years, or vice versa. It's all about sharing. It's all about interaction. It's all about learning. It's all about de-learning sometimes, and then relearning, kind of hotel fit style, but I value that. I value the relationships that you meet along the way. And I think that's just kind of a small analogy for my life. My life philosophy is, it's not about, I guess I don't want to sound too cliche, but it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And, take advantage of it, get to know people and who they are, at least briefly or however long. It's a pretty valuable resource.
Very inspiring, man. Very inspiring.
Appreciate it.
James, before we started all of this, before you even knew what was Hotel Fit, or before we got to know each other, what was going on in your life?
Man, before I met you, and before I even thought about enrolling into some program, like seriously, I was in a pretty dark place. I was in a dark place for a while before that. I gained a lot of weight. I was eating my feelings, so to speak. Not really very active. Was having some bouts of depression. I was getting older. There was some trauma that I had not dealt with properly as a child, and moving forward. And I was always trying to mask it with something, whether it be with smoking or drinking or, anything. So, at the point before Hotel Fit, I kind of, within the, 5 to 10 years prior to that, I've kind of whittled down all my bad habits to, some occasional drinking, and then eating was the kind of the last bastion of overindulgence, so to speak. And I was really crutching on it. You know what I mean? I was leaning hard against it because it gave, if I thought it was going to fill me or fulfill me. And unfortunately, the bad part about that, it's perpetuating your situation. You eat to feel good, and then you don't feel good because now you feel crappy because you ate crappy food, and then you're gaining weight. You have no energy, so you get depressed and you want to feel good, so you eat something else, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. Snowballs. And that's kind of where I was at. I was almost 300 pounds. I was two pounds away from 300 pounds. And I couldn't do like the normal things in life, things you take for granted, like tying your shoe and, just walking. I couldn't get up from my chair. My wife looked at me the other day and she goes, "Oh my God, you've gotten so slim." I remember a time when we were camping in New Mexico and you couldn't even get out of your chair at the campfire. And I remembered back that time. And I remembered how miserable I was and how embarrassing that was and how ashamed I was for letting myself get to that point. So that's kind of where I was at. That was, I was really hungry for direction. I was really hungry for change. And I really wanted it. I just didn't know how to achieve it. I knew that a personal trainer was my next experiment. I knew I needed to get a professional to help me. And then, I got into a car accident, and a part of the recovery process for the car accident was I had to go to physical therapy. Well, fortunately, that got me up off the couch again and started getting me semi-active. And I started getting, some adjustments, chiropractic adjustments, and I started feeling better about being active again. I looked forward to being active. It felt good to be active. And then Hotel Fit came, and that was kind of a fluke. One of your first, or one of your old, or one of your members, Uncle Paulie Morales, was working with me on a project, and he was in the kitchen, doing these 12, 15-hour days plus, 7 days a week. And, the employee meal that gets put out is always just kind of some scraps or whatever's laying around, man. It's quick and easy food for the staff. And, we're all grubbing on, piles of mashed potatoes and cakes and, hamburgers and all kinds of, just really, normal, typical crappy food. And, Paulie's in there. He's like, well, I can't really eat today. I'm going to drink my water, or I'm going to drink my tea, and I go, I was like, how the hell are you doing that, man? That's crazy. And then I started seeing his results, and I was like, okay. And I kept inquiring. And finally I was like, man, I'm going to give this guy a call, man. And that's where I met you. And it was a hard sell at first, but you were persistent. And, the money was, for me, I'd spent so much money on weird gimmicky health schemes that it just was all a big wash, So I was thinking, okay, this is enough money to, have me concerned about if my money's going to be spent the right way. So then I was concerned, what kind of bang was I going to get for my buck? And I kept thinking about it. And we kept having a few conversations. And, the whole time I'm thinking, this is my health. This is the most valuable thing that I can do for myself. If I don't do this, the rest is kind of just useless. And that's how I started to justify the expense. And I'll tell you, man, what, dude, it was the best money that I've ever spent. I had such great results. I had, you walked me through everything. And here we are, we're still in the program, and you've brought me through some very tumultuous times, and with not gaining much weight back or losing it immediately after these moves and these vacations and these gastronomy explorations. And the money is a drop in the bucket for what it gives you. It's money well spent for sure. I can't even stress how important that is. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Remind us again, like how much on average have you saved, like since you got started in
Oh
food
my
delivery?
God, I don't even know, man. I know for a fact, the first thing I noticed was I was saving about $1,000 plus a month in Uber Eats bills alone. That was a substantial amount. I was spending at least $1,000 to $1,500 a month on Uber Eats with me and my family of 5. It's me, my wife Maureen, and my oldest son Finn, and then my twin boys Harlan and Jack. And we always were Uber eating. And I'll tell you, man, going out to eat, Uber eating, we were spending at least $1,500 a month. That's pretty average month. So that alone, sodas, drinking sodas all the time, I was probably spending, I don't know, couple $200-$300 a month in sodas or pops or sugary drinks and stuff like that. And that's just that stuff. since then, I'm not having to use my asthma medication as much as I used to, which is great. So I'm saving on not spending money on medicine. Um, I mean, yeah, dude, there's a lot of ways to save when you hit this program. It's just yeah, just things you don't even realize. It's pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, man, honestly, and just between us here, my plan was always from the beginning to put Uber Eats out of business. That's what Hotel Fit is all about.
No shit. Well, I'll tell
Yeah,
you,
that's
man.
the secret plan.
Nice. Thank God somebody's working towards it, man, because that's cool.
Yeah, but like going back, like you said I was persistent, and that is true. I was very persistent, and I think that's likely the time where I was the most persistent trying to get someone to enroll. But
Oh, no
because
shit.
I like from our first call, I knew that you were in pain, and I knew like if I didn't do anything in my power to convince you to enroll, that would be my fault. I would feel guilty like if you didn't take that step,
Well, I
because I knew
appreciate.
like you had questions about it, like you didn't know if this online thing was going to work. That's like a kind of an alien concept for people initially. So yeah, man, that was that. So like, what
Yeah,
was
it's very.
exactly? Sorry, what were you saying?
No, the online thing was definitely a questionable situation because if I had been gearing up towards, I've been telling my wife for years, like, I think I need a personal trainer or a nutritionist or some sort of doctor to help me figure, maneuver these things. And I always had this idea in my head in this little box that, you put a bunch of money down on a personal trainer and you meet them at the gym and they work the living shit out of you every single day for how many ever hours, which, I hate the gym and I'm getting comfortable. I hate the gym less now. I'll say that. But and I secretly kind of love the gym. I love what it does. I love the feeling it gives me afterwards. But anyway, um, the I thought that my money was going to be most well spent by having this idea of a personal trainer that I go meet up with every single day or whatever. But the online thing had me very skeptical, especially you're in London, I was in the United States at the time, and I was just thinking, how are we gonna do like a video workout, like what's going on, like I have no idea. But once I started delving into it and seeing what it was all about, because of your explanations and what you were telling me, and me telling you exactly what what my likes and dislikes were, and you form fitting kind of the program towards my situation. I saw, I started to understand how it all worked with the app, with the video chats, the checking in constantly. um it worked perfectly for me. It was weird because I didn't think it was going to work at all, but I'll say I was hoping it would work, but I was skeptical. But it worked out perfect. It's still working great. I love the app because I look down at it every day, or most every day. I've been a little off lately, but it keeps me accountable. Yeah, man, it worked better than I ever expected.
Yeah, man,
Absolutely.
and you were definitely a success story. But we'll dive specifically. We'll talk about your results moving forward a little bit on the interview. I want to know, like, what was like the moment where you kind of went over the fence and decided, all right, this is it. I'm going to do this coaching. I'm going to make this decision. Was there like, I remember I texted you something like, because Paulie was like having great results in the program. And I remember texting you something like, James, if we don't start working together in 3 months, you're gonna see Paulie losing all this weight, and you're gonna feel like this is the best decision of your life you never took.
Yeah. No,
But what was like the push? Which conversations did you have with Maureen at home? Like what
I
was the
just
moment you realized that?
I think I was, first of all, I was just ready. I was ready, and me and my wife had discussed discussed me hiring somebody professionally already. We discussed it for probably a couple of years already. Just the opportunity didn't present itself, and the financial opportunity didn't present itself either. But I think what really pushed me towards it was your persistence. I just, I gotta. That February, I was just really in a horrible place health wise, and once I started doing the physical therapy, I got a taste of being active again, and I lost like a couple of pounds, and I started to feel a little bit better, and I was like, man, I want more of this. I want to see how I can do more of this, and because you plateau. You plateau kind of when you're doing the physical therapy thing. You get active again. You start doing the exercises, and you lose a little bit of weight. You get more active and nimble again, but that's about it. So I was at that point, I wanted more. I just was like, well, maybe now that I'm starting to feel better on my feet again, maybe I can get some direction and really do this. And I think what really pushed me was when I told you that I hated the gym and I didn't want to go to the gym, and that I was going to Europe for about a month and a half, and I was going to eat everything I could find. And if you wanted to bring me on board under those premises, then I would be okay with that. And you said yes. And I was like, okay, then fuck it. Let's do this. Or screw it. Let's do this. So that was kind of it, man. And, just, it was kind of history after that. I love the way you approach the, the design of the program for me in particular. It really eased me into things. And it made each task not seem like this giant mountain of an obstacle that I had to get over in order just to see this small little, results. When I got the taste of the first couple of weeks, I was just like, okay, I feel better. I feel great. This is awesome. And I think, once I got that initial push, I just, what I come to realize is through the program that it's almost more satisfying mentally than it is physically. Like, even though the physical part of it feels great and all the things that you do feel great, it's the mental aspect that really, really that I enjoy the most, and it drives me the most, and it perpetuates wanting more. And I love that part about it. I love the structure it gives me. I love, how it's form fitted. I love you bugging the shit out of me all the time.
That's the best part.
No, but I kind of need somebody riding me a little bit, if that makes sense. I told my wife the other day, she's like, she came to me and she goes, she had some issues at school, and she goes, do you think I'm a micromanager? I go, well, you kind of micromanage a little bit every now and then. And I go, but that's why I married you. I need a micromanager in my life, but not too micromanagey. So I think your middle of the night, our time difference, we always dictated whatever times we got in touch with each other. But your calls, hey James, how you doing? Or your texts, how you doing? That means a lot, man. It's checking in like that. That's pretty incredible stuff, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the keys why people have these results. It's really accountability. But let's talk about the results itself then. You lost 50 pounds, so that's like huge, and that's usually the number that people focus on. Wow, like 50 pounds, that's a good amount of weight, etc. But I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. Tell people more about the results that you had, and like what's the difference between now and when you first got started.
Oh my God, man, it's like night and day, man. I tell you, man, as soon as we started digging into the third, the fourth week of the program, I started to feel really good, and I wanted more. I wanted more and more of it. And I'll tell you what, the more weeks that went by, the better off I was feeling. And by the time, one of the goals that we set was before, right when we signed up, I said, I want to get in shape enough to be able to keep up with my family in Europe when we go on our trip to Europe. Because, you know, up until then, I was always the last guy behind the family, trailing them and doing hiking, or, you know, going to a big city or whatever, you walking around or whatever. They were always waiting for me. I was always just sweaty, fat mess, you know, tagging behind. So I didn't want to be that in Europe. So I said, you know, this is my goal. And you know, by the time that Europe trip came around, I felt 20 years younger, man. I felt like I got my life back. It was incredible. I didn't feel like the same person at all in such a great way. It transformed. It literally gave me my life back, because I was going in such a horrible direction. You know, I felt 90 years old, dude. You know, with the program and losing that 50 pounds, dude, I'm still, you know, I still feel great. I still feel amazing. And I love that. You know, my clothes fit better. I got smaller clothes. I lost a couple, like I lost about 5 or 6 pant sizes or something like that. Ridiculous. You know, same with, you know, all my clothes lost. My kids. I lost a lot of pant sizes. You know, I felt better. I was more active. I didn't wake up like sore and broken feeling and hobbling around all the time. And I kept up with my family in Europe. As a matter of fact, they had to keep up with me sometimes. You know what I mean? It was incredible. And there's no way that trip would have been as near as enjoyable if I went into it without those 5 or 6 weeks of training prior to that. So it made a huge difference in my life. Quality of life was definitely a plus on that, man.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What was your biggest challenge during the program? What would you say was the number one thing that you had to overcome?
The number one thing, man, I think getting to the gym, dude. Just getting there. You know, once I got there and started doing it, it was great. You know, once I started doing it, it was great. And every session I progressed to a certain point where I could do more faster, longer, you know, more weights, or, you know, more reps or whatever. And that was hard getting to that point, to the point just getting to the gym. But like after I got there, the first couple of sessions were the hardest, and then after that it got easier. Like third session on, how many of our sessions we did, you know, it was it got easier from there. And I was looking forward to it secretly. I was looking forward to my arm bike and my cardio and my stretching and all that stuff. So I think that would probably be it. Another hard one, believe it or not, was gagging down a gallon of water a day. Was incredibly difficult at first. Like I didn't realize how little amount of water I was drinking until I had to drink a gallon of water, which is about 7.5 of these, by the way. So, and we got a unlimited water cooler here, so it's really nice to stay on that whole routine. But anyway, that was a difficult part too. And sugar.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next. Those first 2 weeks.
Sugar was the absolute. Now that I think about it again, and I try to put that gory part of my life away, sugar is my absolute devil. And coming off of a sugar addiction is no joke, man. That was the one part of my program that I was very adamant about, was the sugar had to leave my life. And that was a big part of it. And coming off that sugar high and that sugar addiction was like coming off drugs. I got blurry vision and headaches, and I was weak, and I was sweaty and clammy and hot and cold, and it was scary stuff, man. Just knowing how powerful that shit is. You know, I haven't had a Coca-Cola or a normal like soda or sugary drink since the program. And that was one thing that I've always wanted to do, was rid the sodas out of my life, which finally they're gone. And that's an amazing thing. I will never go back to sodas ever again because of the stark difference that I saw between the time that I stopped the last drink to the time where I was finally getting off the drug, which was 2-3 weeks later almost. But that was a hard one, man. That was a hard one. And every now and then I still get the craving. You get more creative. There are products out there to help you curb those desires. But the thing is, when you stop eating sugar completely, you really don't have that many desires for sweet things anymore, which is kind of the double-edged sword on that one. But every now and then you like to have a little sweet something.
Yeah,
yogurt, zero was it two grams of sugar or 0 grams sugar? Yogurt and grapes are like, dude, that was my savior. That saved many a days.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's great. I remember you telling me about having nightmares and sweating in the middle of the night, like because of the sugar withdrawal. So that was quite hard. I remember.
That was the most difficult part of the whole thing was the sugar withdrawals, man. But that was quick, man. That lasted maybe 2 weeks. I'd say intense 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it got easier.
What's that?
And then it got easier. Then
it wasn't always intensely hard for the 2 weeks. It was just very hard the first week, and the second week was kind of ramping down. You know what I mean? It got easier the second week, but it was that first week was definitely like coming off crack or heroin that I would assume. You've never been addicted to crack or heroin, but I think if anything, it's got to be like sugar, man.
Yeah, it's an addiction like everything else. Being a chef and catering business owner and food business owner and a guy who's constantly taking part in charity events, so you are around food all the time.
Yes.
How do you navigate being around food all the time and sticking to the protocols and sticking to a program? Because that's one of the questions that people sometimes they're insecure about starting because they have that issue. Like, I'm around food all the time. How am I supposed to kind of do this?
You really just got to make a conscious choice, man. You really have to. It's either yes or no. There's no in between. You got to be. I can't cheat on this. I can't. If it's not on my schedule, then, or if it's not on my nutrition routine, then I can't have it. That's what you got to say to yourself. And no one's perfect, and every now and then you slip up. But the best thing that you can do is get right back on the horse and keep going right afterwards. You know what I mean? Don't beat yourself up over it, which I learned a lot about you, from you. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just get back on the horse and keep moving forward. That's the thing that would always deter me in my past from trying to get into a routine or lose weight was, I would say, okay, I'm going to stop doing this for X amount of time. And then I would slip up and then do it. And then I'd be like, fuck it. You know what? Never mind. Feel shitty about doing it. May as well just do it again. And it would perpetuate itself. So I think, tasting is okay, just as long as you're not swallowing. You'd be better off not tasting it and have someone taste it for you, like in a kitchen. So when you trust a sous chef or, chef or whatever. And just, I would just try to stick to my routine. It was I enjoyed my days where I was fasting because I didn't have to worry about eating anything at all. You know what I mean? It was like, if I had to work and, and it crossed into my fasting routine, it was just like, okay, it's fine. I don't need to eat anything. And, always the myth is that you need food to operate. Yeah. And I tell you, man, with the fasting and as much, fat as I had on me, you taught me how to burn those reserves. And that was really intriguing because you can feel it. I mean, I felt like I was like in overtime mode when those times were happening. I felt like these actions that I'm doing and these movements that I'm doing are perpetuating my weight loss because I don't have any external calories coming in, and it's burning all the internal calories that have been stored there. So it was like a freaking a fat losing machine, dude. It was incredible. And I mean, we lost some pretty quick weight there for a couple of weeks for sure. Yeah. It was just drop, and just sticking to the routine was very key. So I guess being around food all the time, it's not easy, but you just need to make a conscious choice to do the right thing for your program, for your part of the program.
Mm-hmm. James, what would be an advice for people watching this right now, people that are in the industry, and they are probably in a similar position as you were before? What would be your advice for those people?
Man, I think the best advice that I can give that I learned was you can't put a price on your health and happiness and welfare. It may seem like a big chunk of change here and there, but in the long game, it's well spent money, man. I got my life back, and I can't put a price on that. I can't put a price on that feeling. So that's the one thing I'd say. And the other thing I would say is don't wait too long to do it, man. Just jump on it and just get it done. You'll feel happier. You'll feel happier, healthier. You'll get in front of it, and then you can relax a little bit and survey and take inventory of your life and figure out what you want to do next. But get ahead of it. If you're having weight problems or health problems, do something about it now. Don't put it off. I spent my entire 40s being a fat mess and unhealthy, not positive. It kept me from promotions. It kept me from opportunities. It kept me from so many great things in my life by spending that much time thinking if I wanted to do something about it or not. And, I spent my entire 40s trying to figure out what if I wanted to do something and how to do it, if I was going to do it. So don't waste your time, man. Life is too precious. Time is too precious. Family is too precious. You're too precious. Treat yourself good, man. Good. Jump on the hand grenade. Do it.
Spot on, man. Spot on.
That's it, brother. That's it, man.
Is there anything you want to say to people who are thinking about potentially joining Hotel Fit?
It's, dude, like I said, for me, this was the best case scenario program. This worked with me and for me. Absolutely perfect for my mindset. I never got bored. I always saw results. It never got too difficult to see the results. I knew it was always going to be a slow climb to a higher plateau. Some weeks went quicker than I've ever imagined. Some weeks went a little bit slower than what I kind of figured. Just do it, man. Just get in the program. It's the great thing about the program also is Leo. That's the biggest part. That is the biggest part, the biggest benefit of the program. And I'm going to toot your horn a little bit. He knows how to read the room, so to speak. He knows how to customize. He knows how to form fit the nutrition program, the exercise program, the accountability philosophy. He knows how to do that per each individual. So it's not one size fits all. You really take the time. You really take the time to get to know your clients and give them the best customer support and product that you possibly can give them, because you give a fuck. It's not just about the money. As a matter of fact, you're very selective of who you take into your program, and I appreciate me being in it. But you give a fuck about your clients. You care about their welfare. You care about how they feel. I mean, how their life, how the quality of their lives. So I think that's probably the best thing about the program. That's why I'm sold on Hotel Fit. Oh, I'm Hotel Fit for life, dude.
And I appreciate your kind words, and
Either.
I appreciate that, really appreciate that, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to work with you. For those who are watching, James Canter is not a paid actor. Okay, disclaimer.
well, I'm paid in the sense of the transformation that I've worked towards. So that's my payment. I'm a big believer. I'm a firm believer in the program, man, and you.
Amazing.
Yeah, I've tried this with I've tried to lose this weight for many years in so many different ways. This has been the most effective. So proof's in the pudding, man. Can't deny it.
Absolutely, and we still got work to do. We still got work to do.
We do. But yes, I'm getting the dust is settling over here. I got my first gallon of water down the other day. So
Nice,
I'm back
nice,
on.
nice.
I'm ready to get back to the horse here soon.
If anyone watching this, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments below. If you had any questions for me or James, and we will go back to those and respond later. I believe it's 4 a.m. in the US, so they're probably all asleep. But whenever whenever you're watching this replay, feel free to still ask the questions. And yeah, man, that's it. James, thank you so much for taking this time and coming here to share your experience with the others. I appreciate you sharing this story. Thanks to everyone who's watching. I'm gonna stop the live stream now, so we can have time to chat a little bit.
Thank you very much, man. It's been a pleasure, brother. Peace out, homie.
All right, man. Take care. Cheers.